This next question I'm going to pose to each of you as we go round, and that is, how well are women represented in your field? So to give you an idea, in terms of our students and the classes I teach, it depends on the area. So with food technology, typically there's more females than males. Chemical engineering is around about 50-50. It bounces around a little bit, but around about 50-50. But when you get into things like mechatronics, females are very rare, very much dominated by males. So we might just go around and see what your experiences are. Amanda, you're one of these very rare female mechatronics grads. How did you find it when you're a student, and then now that you're in a workplace, are there other females around, or not so much?
So I guess starting off as a student, as bad as it sounds, you kind of have to learn to deal with boys. I struggled because I came from a girls only school, but you kind of learn you have to talk like a guy does, not in the sense of you have to understand that they banter. What they say to you isn't necessarily an insult. It's more it's how they talk. Sounds rude, but I learned that very quickly at uni, which honestly did give me the skills going into some of my internships and now my career. So my very first internship, I was the first ever female that they had as a worker in their I was working in a stainless steel factory, and that was I think a weird experience for both parties. They didn't know how to talk to females. I didn't know how to talk to, these very scary looking guys. But, it does give you the experience and the courage to know women can keep up with what these guys are doing. At Fisher and Paykel, you definitely do see a lot more guys than women, especially in the engineering side. So in the administration side, there was more females than males. Software side, there's probably like 1 or 2 females in there. In my team, we've actually we're a team of 10 in the oven cavities team, and we have one of the highest number of girls in the team, in teams, 2. So it is still pretty low, but there's this common respect between all the guys and everything. I don't think gender really matters at Fisher and Paykel. No one sees you as any less. No one sees you as being better than them, or like everyone treats you as the same, and it's great. You don't quite have the banter. You've got the banter the same way you did at high school, at uni. I mean, dealing with the guys as well. So it's like you kind of feel at home.
That must have been a big adjustment from a girls only school. Raquel, how about you? So you came through food technology, which would have been largely females, but you've sort of moved and you've got some interaction with industry now. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's right now, I am the only girl in kind of the engineering packaging side in the team over here at Massey. But then like looking into the wider group at university, like in the agri-food digital lab, it is kind of 50-50 as well. So that's quite nice. And then I guess in industry, it could be also the same. So on the engineering side, Zespri is also an industry. It's like, it is very male dominated, especially for the engineering, because I think that's very traditional. But yeah, but there's still girls around, and yeah, it's not, you don't feel underrepresented at all. I don't think, never come across like that.
How about you, Hannah? You've worked in a few different areas. Have you noticed any differences?
I think across the board, I think females in these sort of spaces, like it's still quite rare. Definitely I've worked with some great women in the past 7 years of my career, but I'd say that in the senior roles, that's where women are still pretty underrepresented across the board. Like it's nice to see, I've worked with a few female engineers when I was a consultant in the dairy industry. It wasn't anything close to 50-50, but it would be nice to see some more senior women coming through. So hopefully in like 10 years time, that'll be us.
Definitely. And how about you, Katie? So you're at a slightly bigger organisation. How do you find the sort of gender ratio?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm a little bit different to what I've been hearing from the others. Because I've actually found it to be very balanced through the technical areas that I've been working in through my career. there's sort of some teams are more or less, but overall I'd say it averages out to about 50%. And at the moment, in the project management office that I'm working in, we are majority female in that team there. And that probably does lend a bit to what you were saying around the food technology area, because a lot of the graduates that get that come into the technical roles here within Fonterra would be food tech or chem and process engineering. So that does help keep the balance nice and high. And what you guys were just saying around the upper management, that the great news is that there is a big conscious effort around trying to bring diversity into those roles. So now I'm starting to see, even from our senior managers, there's much more diversity at that top table there that I can get to experience and see. So that's great.
Yeah, that's great. I think the key thing is, if you find yourself in a situation where you're not sure, just make sure you reach out to someone and let them know. Certainly if you're at university, find a female staff member that, come and knock on a door and have a chat. We're certainly here to support you. And if you're in a class with hardly any other females, I know it can be really tricky. So just reach out if you do need some help. So the next question I'm going to throw to you, Katie. What is one skill in your area of expertise that you feel is undervalued?
Oh, thank you. So if I take that question from the lens of a student entering university who might not be sure what the critical skills they need to consider are, then one thing I would say would be your call it your business acumen, your ability to understand why things are important in the business. What's the practical understanding of day-to-day operations, why something is a good idea or not a good idea, and that really helps you lift your technical work that you're working on, the recommendations that you're giving, understanding why you're getting the feedback from the direction in your projects, things like that. So that's something really important to take notice of. And it's not just all about how good you are at the technical skill, it's also how you can understand how it fits into the bigger picture.
So there have been some questions around tips for finding your first job after graduating. Luckily, we have someone who's just managed to nail their first job, Amanda. So do you have any tips for how to find your first job once you've graduated?
Oh, I remember being told at university, as a woman, we're very good at seeing the requirements or the desirable things as a checklist. And if we don't cover every single box, we tend not to apply for the job. It's time we embrace the guys' mentality where they see it as they want that, but I'm still going to throw myself out there. So while I did have a job going into my final year, I still did look, and I did reach out and apply to other ones just in case something did happen. And I found that you just throw yourself out there. Don't be that whole, don't think you're not good enough, because you'll be surprised what actually comes about with some of these jobs. The job I currently have, I did not think I would ever in my life get this sort of job. I think I maybe checked 3 or 4 of those boxes. In my interview, I accidentally swore, but I threw myself out there, and I got this amazing job. And that's the thing. I think you just need to have a positive outlook. If you can join a social club or work a part-time job, it does go a long way showing that you can work and you can manage your time, and by doing a part-time job with uni, or by doing this, being part of the social group, like Massey University has Tech and Soc, where you get the class reps and all that. It allows you to put you don't think it looks great on your CV, but it actually does show that you're willing to go put yourself forward and volunteer or help with activities. You're doing more than just university. Try and think about diversifying that CV is probably my other comment.
Employers actually come to the universities each year, and there's a bunch of graduate programs. Go to all of them. They present to you and try and convince you to apply for their program. Apply for them all. You don't lose anything by putting an application in. So if you don't apply, you're never going to get it. So keep an eye out for those jobs. Another person has asked, I'm going to throw this one to Hannah. If I study one area at university, will I be stuck in that area my entire career? So you've already moved around a little bit, so clearly the answer is no. Is that right?
Yeah, I would 100% say no, you're not stuck. I think my takeaway from this would be similar to what Amanda has just said, in the sense that if you're in a job and it's, you think, oh, I'd actually really like to be in this industry, or I'd actually really like to do these sorts of roles, you're not quite, if you're not quite happy, then it's a bit of self-awareness of figuring out like, why am I not happy and what would I like to do? And then once you've done that, if you see a job in another sort of industry or another role, just apply for it, and try and make, you make a list of your what they call like transferable skills, which is just those skills that you can take with you from one place to another. And once you start doing that, you tend to find actually there's a lot of things that you can take with you that kind of go outside the bounds of an industry or a job or something like that. And I think having a degree or having some STEM qualifications, it shows employers that you're willing to learn new things. You're persistent, you can stick it through for 4 years, and outside of that there's a lot of opportunity to learn on the job. For example, one of my colleagues, he has a mechanical engineering degree, but after he finished that, he thought, actually I really like planning and that side of my work. So he ended up getting a diploma in planning that the company helped pay for, and now he sort of does work that's like in between engineering and planning on the regulatory side. So I definitely think there's lots of opportunity if you're sort of a bit self-aware, and you can kind of take your skills from one job to another.
Yeah, so I tend to keep a track of what some of our graduates are up to. They're in all sorts of places. So we have some in finance, we have some very successful real estate agents who are studied as engineers, all sorts of things. And then even with engineering, quite often you can change your field because, like Hannah said, it's those transferable skills, and you've proven you can learn new things. And if you learn in a new field, then you can be very successful. So certainly don't feel like, I know when you're at high school and you're trying to make this decision around what qualification to go to, it can be a really sort of overwhelming decision if you feel like you're stuck with that for the rest of your life. The other thing is, once you get to uni, you can swap. So if you realize it's not for you pretty early on, you can credit courses and things, and you can just swap to something different. So certainly don't worry about coming and then deciding you want to do something different. That's very possible.